This is the Jeff Crilley Show on Talk Radio 1190 AM.
Those crazy nights
Welcome back to the final segment of the Jeff Crilley Show. It's been such a fast-paced show today. We're gonna end with a segment about the Texas oil and gas economy. And my guest is Wolf Hanschen. He is the CEO and founder of Peregrine Energy Partners. Welcome to the show.
Jeff, thanks for having me.
Okay, so tell us what you guys do.
So, in a sense, we connect great properties with great people, and we focus exclusively on the mineral right side of the oil and gas sector. And it's a space that's been around for over 150 years, and oddly, a lot of people don't know about it. Unless you're one of those lucky landowners on which oil and gas was found underneath your land, you really had no exposure into this asset class. And so the last 15 years, that's what we've focused on doing is connecting those people really outside the oil and gas industry with investments in the oil and gas industry.
I remember it was maybe a decade or so ago, and I was speaking. I had written a book on publicity. I'm running around giving speeches, and the sponsor of this luncheon in Johnson County was Chesapeake, and they were explaining that there was this thing called the Barnett Shale, and it seemed so foreign at the time, but then overnight people were becoming millionaires, weren't they?
It's fascinating to see, and right now you're seeing a big consolidation of mineral rights around the country where operators like Chesapeake are focusing on core areas, places like West Texas, the Stack and Scoop up in Oklahoma. And the Barnett Shale, of course, still has some natural gas production, although with prices falling, it's become less favorable than some of the other areas.
And so what has happened here in the last couple years, and how do you work to make sure that your clients are taken care of?
Sure. So you really got two sides of the oil and gas industry. You've got the operator side. You mentioned Chesapeake, names like Chevron, Exxon, Shell, et cetera. A lot of the big names you hear about, those are all on the operator side. They drill and explore for oil and gas. We represent clients that are essentially the lucky landowners, those that either own oil and gas minerals and are looking to divest part or all of those, or on the flip side, clients that weren't lucky enough to be born on that land and might want to own some of that royalties to generate monthly income. So again, that's the connecting part that we do. Royalties and minerals by their nature are a very inefficient industry. Real estate, on the other hand, you've got brokers, you've got MLS listings, you've got websites like Zillow. It's very easy to kind of figure that out. Royalties, I heard someone put it, trying to consolidate the mineral industry is like trying to consolidate blades of grass on your front lawn. And it's just very fragmented, it's very inefficient. And that's where Peregrine tries to step in, is adding some efficiency to that market.
How did you get into this?
Almost by accident, a career day down at University of Texas about 15 years ago, I heard some people in the oil and gas industry speak on this quiet little asset class called mineral rights that had been around for a century and a half, and yet very few people knew about it. It was the unsexy part of the oil and gas industry. You know, all the movies and the articles are usually about drilling and wildcatting, and no one really talked about the mineral space, and the people that owned it actually liked it that way because it was kind of this coveted asset class that a few families around the country owned. It wasn't until the last 5 or 10 years that people really started getting interested in owning them.
Now, did you initially, right out of college, put out your shingle and go into business, or did you work for someone else?
No, I graduated University of Texas in 2002 and moved to Lake Tahoe and was a ski bum for 6 months, and then moved to Cabo and was a surf bum for 6 months. And my dad called and said, "Why'd you go to college?" And so I realized he had a good point. I came back here. I worked for a firm called Noble Royalties for about 10 years. And really back then in the early 2000s, we were the only one buying and selling oil and gas royalties. In fact, we couldn't find an evidence of $1 of private equity money in the space 10 years ago. And today there's about $4 billion from firms like Blackstone and Apollo that are now chasing that same asset.
Wow. Okay, so what was it like going out on your own? Because there is some comfort in getting that check every couple weeks, or a commission check, or whatever. What was it? Was it tough to say I'm doing it on my own?
It was. You know, I had a lot of loyalty to the company I was at. It had been 10 years. For a while, I kind of saw myself staying there forever. It was a comfort factor, and a lot of people don't like to jump in the water because it's cold, and losing that paycheck every 2 weeks and health insurance. We had just had our first child, and so it was definitely a big leap. There were a few sleepless nights in the beginning, but despite even a downturn in the oil and gas industry, we've actually done pretty well the last couple years, almost in spite of ourselves. We learn every day, and I think that's one of the keys to the culture at Peregrine is that we're never too proud to learn, and we try to learn from both our mistakes and our wins.
How do you go about finding new clients? I mean, is it pretty much? There's probably records where somebody is sitting on mineral rights. Are you able to go out and knock on doors, or how do you find new clients?
It's a good question. So we've got two types of clients. We've got those that own oil and gas minerals. They could be people that live out in Tarrant and Denton County, for instance, that own production on their land and might want to divest it for whatever reason. They want to pay off debt. They want to retire early. They want to buy a new house. We've got a lot of younger generations coming now that have inherited minerals, and while they like the monthly income, they want to start a new business. They want to pay for a wedding, these kind of things. So on that side of the fence, we help clients look at divestment options of what they already own. And then on the other side, our kind of other sector of clients are the opposite, people that would like monthly income, exposure to the kind of non or less risky side of the oil and gas industry, but weren't lucky enough to be born in Tarrant County and Midland County, Texas, and places like Oklahoma. So a lot of clients on that side of the fence come from places like California, Florida, New York. About 2/3 of our clients, interestingly enough, are 1031 exchange clients, real estate investors who have seen nice appreciation in their real estate assets, but if they sold today, they would simply be exchanging back into another expensive building. Oil and gas royalties, interestingly enough, are considered like kind to brick and mortar real estate. So you can sell a building and do a tax-free exchange into oil and gas minerals. So that's a big part of our client base on that side.
It seems like with technology just speeding along and new developments in fracking, even people sitting on land with minerals like 10 years ago, they couldn't excavate. They couldn't get that. They couldn't capitalize on that, could they?
Sure. You look at places like the Eagle Ford Shale south of San Antonio, and forever that, in the industry they called that goat pasture because they knew there was a lot of oil down there, but the technology wasn't there to get at it. And so things like horizontal drilling and fracking have allowed oil and gas companies to go in there and revitalize those areas.
Let's talk big picture about energy independence. And I think that phrase has been thrown around for generations, but in our lifetime, the U.S. could become energy independent, couldn't we?
Well, we've almost doubled our oil production just in the last 5 or 6 years, which is amazing because since 1970, and even in the late 70s, Jimmy Carter came out and said we want to be energy independent, and every year since then, until recently, we had become less energy independent. Our numbers went down, our production went down. So this technology has really allowed us, both on natural gas and on oil, to wean ourselves off of places like Saudi Arabia, OPEC, et cetera. So that's caused a big change, a big trend in the industry where, yes, we can become energy independent probably within the next 10 to 20 years.
And I heard something on the news the other day that said that this downturn really sharpened the industry, that now they are much more efficient and they can make money at $40 or $50 a barrel where they might not have been able to 10 years ago.
People have had to become a lot smarter. At $120, $130 a barrel oil, which we saw just 3 short years ago, you could fall backwards and make money in the oil and gas sector. You had, we joke that lawyers and doctors, their part-time job was oil and gas because they would drill wells and buy this and do that because prices were so high, the margins were much better. So at $40 and $50 a barrel and $3 for natural gas, you've seen this consolidation of the industry. Operators have gotten much more choosy about where and when they drill. It's been a very interesting time for sure.
What do you think's going to happen here in the next few years? I know that there seems to be kind of this standoff between the sheiks and the shale, and because of our ability to get it out of the ground now, do you see the kind of the world political scene changing? I mean, so many wars have been fought over oil that we needed in the Middle East.
Sure. Until recently, groups like OPEC had such a short leash on us, where if prices fell to a level they deemed too far below what they needed, they would simply cut the supply, and prices would shoot back up. And now they've lost that control because of our ability to produce more. And so what's interesting is we have to be careful, and these operators have to be careful to find the right balance. In other words, we can't drill ourselves out of business. If we drill too much too fast and the production floods the market, prices crash to a level where operators go out of business. And we've just now seen the slowing of bankruptcies on the oil and gas operator side. One of the beauties about oil and gas minerals is that it's a cost-free asset. There's no liabilities or risks on the operator side. You simply collect a monthly check based on what the operators produce.
I know your crystal ball might be foggy at this moment, but what do you see happening to the price of oil here in the next couple years?
I think operators, for the most part, have found a way to make profits and stay in business around that $50 mark. We've seen it bounce recently as high as 55 or so. Today it's about 43. I think it'll ping back and forth between $40 and $60 a barrel for the foreseeable future. There's really nothing indicating that it can go much higher than that right now. But when it falls too far, let's say below 40, you see operations really scale back. And so as supply and demand come back into balance, prices then rise.
We're both members of EO, and anytime I have an EOer on, I like to give a shout out. For those who don't know, so Entrepreneurs Organization, there's members all over the planet. Why did you join EO?
After 2.5 years in the business, we were doing pretty good, but there was times when I didn't feel challenged enough, and I wanted to make sure I never got complacent, both in my professional and my personal life. And so EO is a great opportunity to expose you to others in different industries all around the country, and especially here in Dallas, that can really keep you on your toes. My dad always said, if you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room. And EO has, just in the last few months since I joined, has really showed me what a wide range of talent is just here locally in Dallas as far as entrepreneurs go. And so that's the biggest reason.
And I think the thing that impresses me about it is that you can learn something from somebody in an industry completely unrelated to yours that you can apply to your own industry.
Absolutely, absolutely. The forums or the groups that we have, none of us have anything in common really from a professional standpoint, but the crossover is constant.
What are your own goals for your company?
I'd like to grow to a place where people in the U.S., whether it be California to Florida all the way up north, have an understanding of the oil and gas sector, both the mineral and the royalty rights and then the drilling rights. And that's really my passion is educating these people on what I learn. It's amazing that, again, this asset class has been around for so long, and you talk to these even investment professionals that just stare at you with blank faces like they've never heard of it. And that really begs the question, why? Here's this asset class that very few people own and don't talk about. Why is that?
Talk about your approach to business, because I know anybody who's successful in business does not stay successful if they're cutting corners or not doing right by their customers. How do you approach new business in terms of how you deal with that customer?
So I read a statistic one time that it's about 10 times more expensive to get a new client or customer than it is to keep an old one. And so by doing right by our clients, both on the selling of mineral side and then the buying side, about 2/3 of our business right now comes from repeat clients, either referrals or people wanting to invest more, et cetera. And so that's a big testament to me that we're doing something right. And so that's important to us, and our culture is that we want to provide an experience and a product, whether it's on the buy or sales side, that they will send their friends and their neighbors to us and come back for more, hopefully down the road.
So if somebody's listening to this broadcast right now and they want to get in touch with you, how do they reach you?
We've actually got two different websites. Peregrine, that's PEREGRINELP, like Linda Paul. That one more focuses on people that own oil and gas right now and might want to look at divestment options, either from estate or tax planning purposes. And then Peregrine 1031.com. That's more on our sell side when we're looking for clients either on the cash or 1031 side that want to own what other people have.
Wow. Well, this has been quite an education. Thank you for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Jeff.
All right. And that's it for the Jeff Crilley Show for this week. We'll see you all next week.